Let's get to where we need to be. So if you open your Canvas to the Econ homepage, we're to module 14. Only got a couple modules left. Done for the semester. You guys will be on to WAGs and government in January. We're going to go over types of business organizations. So types of businesses in the U.S. free enterprise system. We'll talk about the three main types. We'll talk about some variations of that, some technological advancements that we've seen the last 6 years in terms of businesses and what they do. We'll talk a little bit about the stock market. We saw that Moderna announced that yesterday that they had a vaccine that they believe is 94.5% effective against the virus. And on the news of that, the Dow Jones Industrial Average went over 30,000. So we can talk about what you should be trading, selling, or maybe holding on to here. This will be week 5 of our stock market competition. We've got next week and then 2 weeks after we get back from Thanksgiving break. So 4 weeks left in the competition. The difference between first and last in period 1 is under $1,000, and we'll check what it is for you. So make sure that you get to unit 14 and we'll get rolling. Okay, so a couple of things about types of businesses and what we'll do this week. We're going to take a look at the 3 business types that we have in the U.S. You want to be able to explain the similarities and differences between the 3 business types, advantages and disadvantages of those. We'll also talk about a combination of those LLPs, LLCs, conglomerates, and multinationals. As I said, we'll take a look at stock trades, what you should be buying, what you should be holding, what you should be selling in terms of what you have. And then tomorrow we'll take a look at what you need to have done by next Monday. So let me reset this so you can see this better. All right, so in our free enterprise system, we have 3 basic types of businesses, and these are just formats in which they are. You're not going to find these in every country or every economic system. This is really specific to ours. We have 3 types. We have a proprietorship, we have a partnership, and a corporation. Proprietorship is a business owned by one person, a single person. A partnership is a business owned by 2 or more people. A corporation, as you know, is a publicly formed company, basically in which the creators of that corporation write in articles of incorporation with the help of attorneys or lawyers. And if they go public, they can sell shares of stock to raise capital. That is part of our stock market competition. So in a proprietorship, I don't know why it's doing that. Mouse is freaking out. There we go. In a proprietorship, as I said, is a form of business in which one person makes all the decisions. They are the owner. So there's advantages and disadvantages to each of these types of business organizations. Advantages of a proprietorship, you can see there, is that generally they are very easy to start. There's little government regulation, and the person in charge gets to make the decisions. The disadvantage is that there's only one person in charge. If that person dies, the business goes with it. It's generally more difficult to raise money or capital to keep the business going. And if something goes wrong, you are the one that's liable, right? So if you get sued, you're going to be the one that is going to have to protect your business in court. Partnership. Partnership is a type of business organization in which there are two or more owners. Similar setup to a proprietorship. So again, very little government regulation, generally pretty easy to set up. Maybe a business license that you have to apply with the city or the county, depending on the state that you live. That is a little less difficult to raise funds because now you have two or more people and their net worth and credit to hopefully raise enough capital to start your business. And then with more than one person, you generally have a combination of skills. Somebody might be very, very good in advertising. Somebody may be very good in accounting. Somebody may be very good in the retail side. So in a partnership, you have a little more diversification of your labor. Now, the disadvantages in a partnership are similar to those of a proprietorship. All of the partners have unlimited liability. The profits obviously are now shared amongst the number of owners that you have. Once again, any sort of death of one partner could cause the partnership to go under, the business to close. Obviously, any sort of disagreement. You see this with bands all the time, right? You get a bunch of famous people together. One person gets jealous, right? The lead singer leaves. So you had the Police way back in the 80s, right? And then Sting goes out on his own. So you have all of these examples of how partnerships sometimes don't work out for the best. The last business type that we have in the United States is a corporation. And we've dealt with this through our stock market game. It's an organization of people legally bound together by a charter, articles of incorporation, has to be put together by a lawyer or an attorney to conduct some type of business, right? Advantages to a corporation is that it's much easier to raise funds. You know, if it's publicly traded, they can raise capital through the offering of stock. And that's what Elon Musk did with Tesla, right? Tesla was a private company. He had funded it all himself. He created a corporation, had the stock go public, and now Tesla is selling over $400 a share, and each share raises capital in that company for its business interests. In a corporation, there's very limited liability. So people that work in a corporation, unless they do something that is illegal, unless they condone something that is illegal, are rarely held liable for things that go wrong, right? It's not a personal liability situation in a corporation unless they do something willingly that they know is illegal or condone something that's illegal. Generally, the risks are shared throughout all of your stockholders and all of the people of the corporation. And then in corporations, they're so large, you generally have people that specialize in different things, and that allows for those corporations to become very profitable if run correctly. Disadvantages of a corporation is you need an attorney. You don't necessarily need an attorney for a proprietorship. You is not required for a partnership, though some people will use that, but it's required for a corporation. In a corporation, you have less direct control, even if you were the CEO of a corporation. The corporate tax structure essentially creates a double taxation situation in a corporation where you are taxed on your corporate profits. And that's something that's been an ongoing dispute between different administrations and people that back taxing corporations more or taxing corporations less. We talked about that in the last election cycle. And then corporations are limited to the activities that are in their corporate charter. They can't do things that are outside of that charter, and that is by law. So if we take a look at the number of businesses in the United States, how does that break down? And so how that breaks down is this. When we look at, and let me highlight this for you. When we look at the number of, just simply the number of businesses in the United States, during the pandemic, they've talked a lot about small-owned or family-owned businesses. Those are generally proprietorships and partnerships. They make up almost 3/4 of all the business types in the United States. They're the most common because it's the easiest to start. You have very little government regulation. And if you have the idea and the money, you can start that business. Corporations make up 18% of the businesses in this country. Partnerships make up 8%. Where the difference comes in is when you see how the money is spent. So if we talk about the size of firms, for every $100 spent in the US economy, corporations get 90. 90 out of every $100 spent in our economy goes to a corporation. $6 out of every 100 goes to a proprietorship, right? Business is owned by one person. $4 go to partnerships. Now you can have sort of variations of a proprietorship, partnership, corporation. One is a multinational business. This is generally at the corporate level. It's a corporation founded and based in the United States that sells goods and services maybe in Mexico or goods and services maybe in Canada. It's a multinational business. You also have corporations, proprietorship, partnerships that can be nonprofit organizations. A number of churches are nonprofit organizations. And so they form, their goal is not to make a profit, even though most do. Red Cross, Salvation Army, a lot of churches, they have a different calling. Their motive is not profit, is to provide a service generally to somebody there. You also have what are called franchises. Now, in this area, most of your Subways, most of your McDonald's, your Little Caesars, your Domino's, those are franchises. And basically what it is a proprietor or a group of partners get together. They go to the parent company and they sign a contract. They generally pay between $100,000 and $250,000 to have the right to sell McDonald's or Subway or Domino's or Little Caesars under that name and under all of that packaging. Once they pay the franchise fee, it's called, to the parent company generally trains them for a period of 30 days, takes another month or two to set up that franchise location, and basically every month they'll pay a portion of the profits to the parent company, but then keep the rest of it for themselves. So what it allows a corporation to do is to not really take all of the risk, to raise some capital, allow somebody to run a McDonald's underneath the corporate name, and then take part of the profits as they come through. There are different ways that businesses can be financed, and it depends on the business type, proprietorship, partnership, or corporation, and how that's done. People can use a line of credit through a bank. We've talked before about a bond, right? Different companies can sell bonds, repay that bond over a period of 10, 15, 20, 25 years. You can take interest from your bank accounts. If you're a corporation, you can sell stock. The most common type of stock is common stock, right? Stock that gives a holder partial ownership of the corporation. That's what you've been trading in your stock market game. We also have the ability for these proprietorships, partnerships, and corporations to merge together. So you have mergers, and it's basically a combining of one business with another business. And there are three different types of mergers. We have a horizontal merger of two or more companies in the same industry at the same level. So this would be if Domino's and Little Caesars merged together, that would be a horizontal merger. A vertical merger is a merger of two companies that are at two different stages in the same production process. So if you had, say, Kraft cheese by a dairy farm, right, or a company that owns dairy farms, that would be a vertical merger, right? The dairy farm produces the dairy products. The dairy products are then shipped to Kraft. Kraft then processes those into cheese, into milk, whatever good that they are trying to sell. That would be a vertical merger. And then you have what's called conglomerate mergers. Conglomerate mergers are two different companies that have nothing to do with each other that come together to try to take a bigger share of an economic system. So that would be like if you had Frito-Lay merge with Chevron, right? Frito-Lay creates snacks, chips generally. Chevron sells gasoline for the most part. Those are two unrelated industries, two unrelated activities, but they come together and merge. And so conglomerates have become very popular the last 2 decades because what it does is allow for two companies in two different areas to join together and try to take a bigger market share of the US economic system. Any questions on that portion there? Okay, so what I'll show you is a graph. Let me show you a graph and a picture because it may be easier to see than to look at all of that. If we talk about just the number, right, just the number. So this is just the number of businesses in the United States, all right? So just the number of businesses in the United States, that's what this graph is showing, right? We've said 75% of the businesses in the United States are proprietorships, so almost 3/4. When you look at corporations, they make up 18%. And then finally, when you look at partnerships, they only make up 8%. So if you take all of the businesses in the United States, almost 3/4 of them are owned by a single person. 18 out of 100 are owned by a corporation. 8 out of 100 are owned by 2 or more people, right? 2 or more people. If we take a look at sales, right? Sales. So in the only 18% of the businesses in this country are corporations. But as you can see, they make up 90% of the sales. So 90 out of every $100 spent in this economy in the United States goes to a corporation. 4 out of every $100 goes to a smaller family-owned business that is in a partnership. A sole proprietorship, 6 out of every $100. So that's just a graphic representation of what we had just covered. All right. So the biggest change in the last decade in businesses has been technology. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about the food industry, doesn't matter if we're talking about steel, manufacturing, automotive, advanced robots, and improvements in technology have changed our economic system and changed the way that even proprietorships, partnerships, corporations do business. So 2 things have changed in, I would say, the last 2 decades. One is the ability of advanced robots to do jobs, right? Advanced robots are a form of artificial intelligence. And now that they are more human-like in their reflexes, they can do much more than they could, say, 30 years ago. You also have the ability of proprietorships, partnerships, and corporations to use what's called additive manufacturing. And what this does, it has saved on the factors of production cost, generally with the capital costs of producing goods and services, and I'll show you examples there. If we talk about advanced robots used to be 30 years ago, something that had 2 joints, right? So maybe an elbow, right? Maybe an elbow that could move one direction and maybe a shoulder that could move up and down. Once technology whether it be computer-based or whether it be technology-based, figured out, right, similar to what you have, right? You have a shoulder that you can move in many directions. You have an elbow that can move as a joint, and your wrist can move independently of that. You can move all three of those joints independently along with your fingers. When they figured out how to do that on a machine, it completely changed the way things work. And the best example of that is going to be additive manufacturing. So if any of you have taken Mr. Maxwell's class on campus, you know that in his computer lab, he has a 3D printer. Now, when 3D printers first came out and were relatively reasonably priced, say 15 years ago, maybe 2005, a 3D printer basically required you to put a piece of plastic or a piece of material inside the printer, and then it took a laser, right, and used that laser to guide a cut to create a 3D product, a three-dimensional product. There's a lot of waste, right? Because basically you start off with a block of material and shape that down and cut it the way that you want to get the product that you need. And so that's a lot of waste. When technology and advanced robots figured out we can use these things together to add, right? We now have 3D printers that basically build on top of another. They build on top of another. So you have less waste of things, no matter what you're trying to produce. So let me show you some examples here. So the first example I'm going to show you is from 6 years ago. 6 years ago, this is going to be what additive manufacturing was. And you can see the change in just 6 years. So this is going to be from 2014. So this is going to be from 2014. And let me show you what additive manufacturing was. And this is only 6 years ago. Actually, I got to share or you're not going to be able to see a stinking thing. All right, so this is 6 years ago, 2014.
These buildings behind me were not built in the normal fashion, but were actually printed out by a 3D printer. This printing method was developed by a private inventors.
The 10 standalone one-story houses look normal at first sight, but the walls are made up of layers of construction waste and cement instead of brick and mortar. However, technological limitations prevented the building's roofs from being printed. The buildings will serve as offices at a high-tech industrial park in Shanghai. We visited the company's workshop in Shanghai's neighboring city of Suzhou to find out precisely how the buildings were printed. The walls are primarily made out of material refined from construction waste and mixed with cement. The wall structure was scrupulously designed to ensure soundness and practicality. The printer used to make the walls was designed and made by inventor Ma Yi-le. His company and research center are all made out of 3D printed walls. It took about a month for him to build his office, which covers an area of over 10,000 square meters. Ma said a 3D printing assembly line usually consists of 4 printers. He added that the new technology is cost-effective and environmentally friendly.
To obtain natural stones, we need mining, digging up blocks of stones, and sewing them into pieces. The whole mining and manufacturing process is damaging our environment badly. But with 3D printing, we are not polluting the environment. Instead, we are recycling materials, and by using a special treatment, we can turn them into materials like this. We can provide building materials according to the customer's needs. Any thickness in any color in large sizes is fastened and chip.
Ma has been researching 3D printing for 12 years. He believes his technology can change the way people think about housing and construction.
With 3D printing, in the future, we can build good buildings with reliable materials and without waste. Waste from the demolished buildings, industrial waste, or even mine tailings can be used to build structures without a recycling treatment.
Okay, so 2 things I want you to notice, and we go back, and I just want to show you 2 things here. So first thing, when we look at this, all right, when we look at this, he's got basically construction waste mixed with concrete to build these walls, all right? The machine that he's using basically can go left and right, and it builds on top of each other, right? It builds on top of each other so that he creates, let's see if I can get a picture here. Right? So basically he creates these walls, right? And those walls then are taken by a crane and stacked on top of each other. So that is what those handles there are for. Those handles are to take each one of these walls and stack them on top of each other. So you would take that, stack that there, take that, stack that one on high, take that one and stack that there. And that's how he creates, his company creates those big walls that you see there, right? You can paint that, you can do whatever you want, but that's how that is created. So that is 2014, all right? So that is additive manufacturing in 2014, right? Pretty good advancement, right? You're now taking things and creating that. So in 2016, let me show you what we have. Actually, 2017, my apologies. So 3 years later, this is the advancement that has been made. These would be advanced robots and improved technology. So if you notice that joint can already turn, right, at basically an arc, right? It doesn't have to be left, right, or at an angle. You can see that it made just a semicircle there. And then also watch the part of the arm that can also move up and down independently of the sort of x-axis of that machine. So in 3 years, right, in 3 years, that is the change that went there. You had a machine now with additive manufacturing that could move along 3 axis points, X, Y, and Z. And so that leads us to just a year later in 2018, this is what you'll have for additive manufacturing included, right, a form of a different house, something not as primitive, right, or uniquely shaped as the one before, but still with great potential. Notice that the cost has gone down $6,000 in 1 year, $10,000 for that Russian house in 2017, $4,000 for this house.
strong, sturdy walls, having a door that we can close at night. It's something that we take for granted, being able to lock our door and be safe. For many of these families, for years, sometimes even a lifetime, they don't have that opportunity to have a safe shelter. When they move into a new story community, when they move into a safe home, families' lives are transformed.
And so what you've seen here, right, just this advancement is when you have, say, a natural disaster, hurricane, earthquake, wipe out entire communities, you can come in and with this technology, right, you could make 7-8 homes in a week and rebuild much faster than you would, because the normal time for construction of a house is generally about 3 months. That's generally about how long that would take. So you see a lot of changes due to this additive manufacturing, and changes in the form of business types would be this. You're seeing more and more, a lot of doctors, a lot of different industries are using what's called an LLC and an LLP. So one of the disadvantages of a proprietorship or a partnership is this unlimited liability. And so what some attorneys figured out is that there's a loophole. If we form what's called a limited liability company or a limited liability partnership, we can actually act like a corporation, but not really be one, but get their protection. So limited liability companies and limited liability partnerships have been very popular the last 7 to 8 years, because it combines the characteristics of a corporation in terms of the protection, legal protection, that's the biggest reason to do it, with the advantages of a partnership or a sole proprietorship, right? You have no double taxation of a corporation. You can form a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC, same thing with an LLP, but you get liability protection. It's going to protect you and your profits and your earnings and your savings from everything else. They are generally more expensive to operate because you have to hire an attorney and you have to do things a little bit differently. Generally, you're going to have an accountant go over this and make your books accessible. You might also have to pay unemployment compensation as a LLP or an LLC to the unemployment compensation fund of the government. And you're also going to need a corporate bank account. But generally, you'll see more and more of these in the next decade because of what it offers. And it offers that protection. As I said before, all of the business types come from either a proprietorship, a partnership, or corporation. Conglomerates and multinationals would be the last two examples of that. Conglomerates are a combination of 2 or more corporations into a single corporate structure that generally have nothing to do with each other. What it does is allow a company to join together with another company and diversify. It would be like if Amazon and UPS joined together, right? Amazon sells the products, UPS delivers the products. Now they can take a bigger share of the market, right? Disadvantages of conglomerate generally is the size of it. It's harder to diversify. It's harder to raise meaningful capital gains in situations like that. And then, as I said, all a multinational is a corporation, conglomerate, or company that has its base here in the United States, but it produces and sells goods and services in other parts of the world. The advantage of that is the growth of jobs in other places of the world, the spreading of our technology, the spreading of our new production methods. You saw that group was going to go down to Central America and build those homes there. And it generally creates a better standard of living. You saw what a house that costs $4,000 using additive manufacturing versus those huts basically that were covered with tarps. Disadvantages is generally the wages that multinationals pay in these foreign countries are lower than what they'd be required to pay in the United States with a minimum wage. The working conditions are not regulated like they are here with OSHA, occupational safety, right, and hazard. So that would be a concern. And then generally when you come into these areas, you're going to see some issues as it relates to what it does to culture, right? What it does to culture. But all in all, it's still an improvement of what it had been. All right. Go ahead and take about 4 minutes. Go grab something, stretch your legs. We'll come back. We'll talk about the stock market. We'll get you out of here. All righty, so real quick, as I said yesterday, if you saw the news, there was an announcement about a second company having a very effective virus. You know, when all of this started, anything in terms of a vaccine that was 50 to 60% effective was going to be a game changer. 90% and above, 90 for Pfizer and BioNTech, 94.5% for Moderna is going to change a number of things. And you saw the stock market basically go up above 30,000 yesterday. Right now, it's holding pretty steady, down a little bit. NASDAQ is up. They're worried about, right, how the vaccine is going to be distributed, but you can see a number of stocks are doing very well with this news. A lot of industries can't start back up. You see Costco is up $4.53 a share. Tesla's up $38 a share right now. You can see a number of gainers here. So it's something to look at. And one of the things that we want to see, we're 4 weeks into our competition. We have basically 4 weeks to go. When should we buy? When should we sell? And when should we hold on to our stocks? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll let you make your trades.
Chapter 10, Buy, Sell, or Hold. In this video, we're going to learn about annual reports, revenue, net income, and determining to buy, sell, or hold stocks. But first, let's brainstorm. Why would you want to buy a stock? People may buy stocks to make a future profit. How about sell stocks? People may sell to collect their profits or protect against further loss because the stock price is dropping. How about hold? People may hold because historical trends suggest that over the long term, stocks have a greater return than saving your money alone. As a reminder, when playing the stock market game, your portfolio takes into account both realized and unrealized gains, so you do not need to sell off any of your positions by the end of your game to see your profits. But how do you know which action to take? Buy, sell, or hold. Looking at a company's annual report may help you make that decision. A company's annual report provides information on what a company does, its financial performance, as well as its plans for the future. Some key definitions to know when looking at an annual report is revenue, the money collected for providing a product or service. And net income is the total earnings, profit, after all expenses and taxes have been paid. Now let's look at some examples of data found on annual reports. In example 1, Company A has increased their revenue, money collected for providing a product or service, and net income, total earnings, over 3 years. The 52-week high is around $40, and the 52-week low is around $30. The current cost per share is $38.49, which is close to the 52-week high. What information have you learned about this company with data? Would you invest in this company right now? In example 2, Company B has a decreasing revenue, money collected for providing a product or service, over the past 3 years. They also have a fluctuating net income, total earnings, from $7,000 to $13,000 to now into $2,000. Its 52-week high is around $62, and its 52-week low is around $26, which is a big gap. It's now selling below its 52-week low at around $25 per share. In 2019, 1 year ago, you purchased 100 shares at $57.90 per share. Would you buy more stock, sell the stock you own in this company, or hold the stock in your portfolio? In example 3, Company C has had a slightly increasing revenue, money collected for providing a product or service, and income, total earnings, over the past 3 years. Its 52-week high is around $38, and its low around $33. Its current price per share is around $36. You purchased 100 shares of the stock in 2020 at $32.67 per share, very close to its 52-week low and lower than its current price per share. Would you buy more stock, sell the stock you own in the company, or hold the stock on your portfolio? Hesitate. Choose one of the examples, company A, B, or C.
Okay, so there's a number of things to consider. One of the things, especially in this short period of time, is that you don't have a lot of time to wait for something to develop. So let's look at Tesla. Tesla's been going up. Yesterday it closed at 408 and 9 cents. It opened at 460.17. And so you can see here what it has done, right? It has gone and stayed pretty steady. It got as low as 434 and now it's starting to climb back up again. Over the last 5 days, right, you can see what Tesla has done, right? So you can see the last 5 days, you can see the last month. This basically encompasses our stock market competition. If you bought Tesla at the beginning, it's 443, and now it's up $3 a share basically for you. So these are the things that you want to look at. If they seem to be trending up, I would hang on to them. If they seem to be staying steady, I would probably look at the long-term trend, 6-month trend. If the 6-month trend is going up, I would maybe buy more of that stock that is held steady. If the 6-month trend is something that has gone down, I would look to dump that stock. So let's look at Amazon, for example. We look at Amazon, it closed yesterday at $3,131.06 a share. It opened today almost $50 higher. So if you look at just today's activity, where it opened, and you can see now it is down. Last 5 days, it has generally stayed pretty constant. The last month, right, it has trended down. It is maybe something that you would want to get rid of, even though the 6-month trend is, right, gone up. 6 months ago, you're looking at $2,449.33 a share, up to right now $3,131.06. But your month, right, is what we've done here. So it's up to you, but that's one way to check. So since we have everybody here, there will be 6 breakout rooms, 1 for each group. You need to make 2 trades today. They can be a stock, a bond, or a mutual fund. You can do 1 buy, 1 sell. You can do 2 sells. You can do 2 buys. It's completely up to you, but you need to make those 2 trades in the time that you will have allotted to you. So, group 1, let me get you set. Eduardo. Take me just a second to get everybody in there. Kai, are you right there? B, Ryan, Dylan. Group 2 is Julian, Jacob C, Sam, Alexis is not here. Maria is. Amy. Jonathan. Group 3. Dawn, Melissa, Israel, Audrey, Natalie, Isaiah, Emily. For Luke, Micah, Melinda, Group 5, be hungry. Okay, so a couple of things. Let me share this with you. When you look at the rankings here, move this to the side. In period 2 here, let's see what we've got. Period 2, it looks like, yep, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Group 4, you are up $1,700. You're 167th in the region. So you can see one group's at 101, 722. We've got one group at 100, 750. One group at 100, 300. We've got another group at 100, 147. And then these two groups here, you see one is only $2.18 away from making a profit, actually $2.19. And then another is well within 200. So you can see between first and second, right? Between first and last. So first and sixth place, we've got 101, 722, 93 minus 99, 791, 48. You're looking at $1,931.45. So with 4 weeks to go, you can make that up in a day. All right, make that up in a day. Remember, first place gets some extra credit. So you need to make 2 trades in your group. You need to make that within the allotted time. You'll be given 9 minutes. It could be a buy and a sell. It could be 2 buys. It could be 2 sells. But you've got to make 2 trades today. Make sure that you check in transaction notes that your trade went through. So if you go to transaction notes, it'll show you, you can see I made 2 trades yesterday. It'll show you that your trade was executed, and it will say order executed. If you get an error like this where it says exceeds maximum, that means it didn't go through. So make sure that your 2 trades go through. You've got 9 minutes. Be quick.